see that hog. I'm still excited about that thing.
I thought for sure he was coming in, and he was about to run us over. I heard him grunting way back.
You see, it's so thick in there, Steve. I mean, it's hard, you know. The conditions have got to be perfect.
Yeah. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Suzuki's Great Outdoors. I'm your host, Steve Bartkowski, and today we're going to be bow hunting wild hogs in South Georgia. Joining me on today's program is an old friend of mine, a veteran of 15 years of professional wrestling, Mr. Wonderful himself, Paul Orndorff.
How you doing, Steve?
And bow hunter extraordinaire, I might say.
Well, thank you.
Listen, Paul, I know that you're no stranger to this patch of woods down here.
That's true, Steve. I come down here quite regularly. I've been coming down here probably for 5 years now. And I know the land pretty good, and I know how the hogs are moving and the sign and everything. So I'm looking forward to this hunt.
How are we going to hunt these things?
Well, there's a number of ways you can do it. I figure the best way to do in the morning and afternoon we'll stand hunt, and mid-morning, we can catch them feeding and trying to find a waller, something to cool off in with still hunt. And if that don't work, I'll get my old buddy Tommy Sadler, and he'll get his dogs, and we'll go out there with the dogs with him, and we'll light them up that way.
Well, 3 different kinds of ways to get after these hogs.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good deal. Well, I know I brought my ATV from home. I wanted to make sure that I could get around this Okmulgee swampland down here.
Well, you're going to get a test. We're on about 10,000 acres, and you're going to need a four-wheeler like this here, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good hunt.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it, buddy. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, let's do it.
We're going hog hunting right after this.
Suzuki's Great Outdoors with Steve Bartkowski is brought to you by American Suzuki, committed to bringing you the most innovative motorcycles, ATVs, and outboard motors on the market today. Suzuki, the ride you've been waiting for.
Our bow hunt for wild hog takes us to my home state of Georgia. We're just outside of the small town of Ryan, Georgia, about 2 hours south of Atlanta. Paul and I will be hunting the area just east of the Okmulgee River in an area made up of thick woods and miles of swampland. This is the type of terrain that is home sweet home for the wild hog. After getting ourselves outfitted for the first day of hunting, we headed out on our ATVs. I must admit that I wasn't sure what to expect. While I've hunted a variety of game, this is my first hog hunt. And I've heard the wild hog stories about their unpredictable demeanor, the way they grunt and pop their jaws and slash with those razor-sharp tusks. Not to mention that some of these animals can top out over 400 pounds. For 12 years, I was dodging guys with pretty much the same characteristics charging at me on the football field, but there was always an official close at hand. Well, all joking aside, like any outdoor adventure, if you're conscious of your surroundings and if you're with someone who is familiar with the woods and the game, you're going to be okay. Paul definitely knows this neck of the woods, so I knew I was in good hands. And even if we do run into an angry hog, I think Paul, if he can hold his own against Andre the Giant, surely he can pin down a hog, right? Is this the place, big boy?
Yes, Steve. I've been up here for the last couple of days, and as you can see back there, there's some good sign in here. They've been running through here real good. They've been working this whole area because there's some swamp area right down the bottom. There's a smooth down there. I figured what we could do is go out there and do some stalking, maybe slip up on them. And I know they're in here. It's a good morning, a little chill because they're not moving feed.
I'm game. Let's have at 'em.
We need to keep as quiet as we can keep step by step, because
Well, you're the guide. I'm following you. You saw some hogs working back down in here earlier.
Yeah, I did. The last time I was here, as I was coming out, they were right down here. And what they're eating is those muscadines that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
They've been eating those muscadines, just tearing them up all in this whole area.
Good deal.
I tell you what,
boy, it's a pretty patch of woods back in here.
Don't be surprised if you get your first hog right about now.
I'm ready. As we eased through the woods, we noticed some prints that were without a doubt the prints of a wild hog. Fresh prints at that. How can you tell now that from a deer track? Hog and deer tracks are very similar. The way that you can tell the two apart is that the hog track is more rounded. These tracks certainly met the criteria Paul had described.
Big one there, yeah. That's a hog track right there. That's fresh. Because that's rounded off right there. I got you.
Certainly risk plays a role in the intrigue of hog hunting. There seems to be a strange mystique in pursuing potentially dangerous game. It definitely kept me on my toes. I let Paul guide me through the area, very quietly, because like Paul says, you have to move as cautiously and as silently as possible.
That's where they've been rooting through here, huh?
Your ears might be your most useful sense in detecting hogs. They're not necessarily known to be silent. They emit low grunts continuously when they're feeding undisturbed, as well as occasional squeals as they squabble among themselves. As much noise as these animals make, don't get the idea that they're not wary. In fact, Paul swears that he thinks a hog has a sense of smell as good as a white-tailed deer. Paul took me to an area where he'd seen some hogs earlier in the week. It is here where we nestled down under a tree and waited. The name of this game is patience.
Backing you up. Here it comes. I saw him. He turned. Went back there. He's coming. So he turned. Kind of dropped off that way. You think he saw us?
We spent the morning stalking through the woods and sitting among the acorn trees. Although none came within bow range, we spotted several animals. It was time for some lunch, some rest, and later again to try our luck in the afternoon.
Did you see that hog? I'm still excited about that.
I thought for sure he was coming in, and he was about to run us over. I heard him grunting way back.
You see, it's so thick in there, Steve. I mean, it's hard. You know, the conditions have got to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I figured what we'd do. If you remember when we came in, when we came down, if you can remember that, you remember the crossroads right there?
Yeah.
Okay, you remember back in there when we walked in that first corner and I put my stand up there and then I moved it again? Okay, you get in that stand there, you know, get in that area in there, because you know we saw hogs in there too. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go on down the road and I'm gonna peel back to the left, back in that area.
Okay.
So, you know, any of those two places is gonna be a good place in there.
Well, I'm with you, man. I told you, you're my guide.
You saw that hog,
Yeah,
didn't you?
I did. He was coming. If you wouldn't have made so much noise, he'd have come and run us over.
Dadgummit, I know it.
You folks stick around because Paul and I will continue to try our luck for wild hogs when Suzuki's Great Outdoors continues on ESPN. One of the more popular ways to hog hunt is using dogs. During my hog hunting adventure, I met someone who not only uses dogs to help bay hogs, but he also breeds and trains them. Well, Tommy was kind enough to come out here and fill us in on this southern tradition of dog hunting. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, tell me a little bit about this pup right here.
Well, this is a 7-month-old dog. She's a half pit bull and half white English bulldog. And she's gonna make a good one.
Well, I'll tell you, this is not the only type of dog that you do chase these hogs with, is it?
No, I've gotten 6 dogs like this one that and they're my bay dogs. I use them. They're short range dogs. They go and
you call them cur dogs.
Cur dogs, right? That's a talk for them. And
For a Heinz 57?
exactly. And what they do, they wind the hog out in the woods, and they'll go out there and bait a hog up. Then the hunters will go out and shoot them or whatever. Also, I run them with hounds, and the hounds are a long-range dog. They go and they'll cover the whole plantation just after a hog.
Now, there's tournaments, and you handlers, dog handlers such as yourself,
Right.
you guys get involved in these tournaments. Oh, I love you too. Yes, I do. Tell me a little bit about the tournament competition.
Yeah, there's quite a few tournaments. They have them mainly in South Georgia and Alabama. That's where they have them. And they range from anywhere from hound tournaments to cur dog tournaments. And they grade you on how the dog will actually get in the hog's face and bay at him, or how they'll catch him, or how good they just keep the hog at bay, you know.
Well, you've been running these dogs through these South Georgia woods for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah. I'm originally from Florida, so my daddy, he's been running them all his life, and so he had me when I was in diapers out there training me how. So that's really where I learned to do it at.
Well, Tommy, thanks a lot for spending some time with us. I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. It's about lunchtime.
Yeah, we still got one dog though we got to catch up.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. How in the world do you get these dogs? I mean, sometimes they get out and get on a track, get on a hog, and I mean, I bet you it's days sometimes before you can find them, huh?
Yeah, sometimes it is, but I usually just blow the car horn and they'll come on in.
Now, wait a minute, that's got to be a trained response. I've never just blown my car horn and my dog come running.
It is. What I do is every day when I feed my dogs, I'll blow the horn, and that lets them know that it's dinner time.
I got you. Yeah.
And they'll come to it.
So,
it's just no trick.
So the trick is don't feed them before they go.
Don't feed them before you go. And they'll be ready to come.
Well, show me. See if you can get that last dog to show up here. I'm ready to eat. Here, darling. Why don't you hop back in here? Come on, hop in. Well, if that gets...
I hear him.
To have been my first hog hunt, I couldn't have asked for a better guide. Paul Orndorff is a super nice guy who didn't mind teaching a novice like me all about his passion, hog hunting. Now, if you are or ever were a wrestling fan, you know the name Mr. Wonderful. Whether it was battling the likes of Andre the Giant or defending his numerous wrestling titles, or wrestling Hulk Hogan in front of thousands of fans both in the stadium and on television, Paul Orndorff has definitely earned a reputation in the ring. You don't have the opportunity to simply sit down and have a conversation with wrestlers who aren't ringside. That's why it was so nice to sit with Paul Orndorff away from the ring in the outdoors where he loves to be and reflect on his career. You were quite a football player in college there at the University of Tampa.
Well, you know, I loved it. You know, like anything, especially football, is something you got to love.
Inducted into the Hall of Fame there.
Yeah.
Played with some guys that knocked around the NFL for a while.
Right. I'm sure you know them. Freddie Solomon, for one. Okay. Noah Jackson. John Matuzak. He was #1 pick in the nation that year. And, you know, those guys, they were Super Bowl players. We had a super team that year.
I know. You guys had a couple big wins I know you're proud of.
That's right. We played University of Miami 1 year and beat them, I believe it's 33-7, 33-14. And then the following year we played them again and beat them 21-14, I believe it was.
Just owned them, didn't you?
Well, we had a good team. It took everybody on that team, and it was a super effort on everybody. And people just didn't believe it happened, but it happened. We were only about 1,800 students in that school.
You had a chance to play professional football yourself, drafted by the New Orleans Saints. That didn't work out for you.
Right. To be quite frank with you, I was drafted by him, and I went there for a while, but my heart wasn't in it no more. You know, I pretty well burned out on it. And, you know, I just, it's not what I really wanted to do. I played it all those years, and when it did come time that I could make some money, it's not what I wanted to do. And I'm kind of a headstrong guy. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it, and my heart's got to be with it.
Well, I think that's true of all of us. If your heart's not in it, you can't excel.
Absolutely.
But that led you to a different path.
Yeah.
Professional wrestling. You know, wrestling against the likes of Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. I mean, what was your greatest moment, your greatest thrill as a wrestler?
I'll tell you, Steve, probably wrestling in front of 79,000 people, the largest crowd to ever witness a wrestling match outdoors. It's the largest crowd ever.
Where was that?
That was in Toronto, Canada.
Who were you wrestling with?
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
And that's when we were having our, you know, disagreements, and that was, you know, that's something they can never take away from you.
That's a bunch of folks.
Yes, it is, and You know, that's I had a good payday.
That had to be a thrill for you.
Yeah, and that was, you know, that's.
Well, tell me this: what's your technique when you step into the ring? I mean, you're a big guy, but I mean, come on, let's face it, Andre the Giant. I mean, he's as big as the lodge we're staying in. And what do you try to do when you? What's your strategy?
Well, with Andre, you just do just enough not to make him mad. Okay, that's the first thing. No, I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college. I've always been an athlete, much like yourself, and when I wrestled, I used my athletic ability and my amateur techniques, and I just kind of put them all together, plus my weight training and everything, and I had a heart, you know, and I don't say that braggingly, but I was, I put my mind to do something, I did it, you know. Coach said run through the wall, I was the type of guy that would do that, and you know what I'm talking about. Sure. But I watched films of guys that I wrestled with, and I used all these techniques and moves and a lot of quickness and everything, and that's and staying injured free for quite a few years. That helped me to get up here, you know, up here at that level.
Well, I got two little boys at home, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we're at a lot of functions during the course of the year where they're around the likes of Jim Kelly, Jim Everett, John Elway, you know. But when I told them I was going bow hunting with Mr. Wonderful, those guys just about flipped. You know what they told me? Dad, don't come home without an autograph.
Well, maybe one of these times we can bring the youngins down here and take them home.
Oh, now they'd like that. What a testimony to the success of that sport, though. That's kind of the direction I'm going in. I mean, people screaming, yelling, I mean, having a big time.
Everybody's come out of the closet as far as wrestling. You know, we're talking about governors and doctors and movie stars. You'd be surprised at who may show up at a wrestling match, and it can be anybody. You know, it used to be it was just a one crowd people went to wrestling matches. Elvis Presley was a big fan,
and still is.
Exactly. Don Johnson, you know, he was a big fan of it. When he wrestled in Miami, he would all the time come down. But you know, the popularity has just been unbelievable.
Okay,
there's no doubt about
now
it.
tell me what you're doing with yourself now.
Well,
right
now,
you're still wrestling.
I wrestle and I hunt and I hunt and I hunt and I hunt. But I hunt an awful lot. But I have a bowling center, and between the bowling center and you know, and I still wrestle 6-8 times a month. I pretty well, you know, pick and choose what I want to do now. Yeah. And you know, I'm still kicking around that. I got a couple more years left in that. So I do that, and I speak to churches a lot. I go around giving my testimony quite often.
Suzuki's Great Outdoors with Steve Bartkowski is brought to you in part by the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute Marine Division, an educational institution dedicated to training quality marine technicians. Suzuki's Great Outdoors with Steve Bartkowski, brought to you by American Suzuki, who invites you to visit your local dealer and check out the lineup of 1992 motorcycles, ATVs, and outboard motors. Suzuki, the ride you've been waiting for. To learn from the experts, subscribe to Outdoor Life magazine. Call 1-800-858-8900 and subscribe today.
A lot of folks don't give wild boars the credit that's due them. They're really pretty tough critters. I'm Jim Zumbo, hunting editor for Outdoor Life magazine. One of the important things to remember about wild boar hunting is the fact that they're nocturnal. That means they feed at night. What that means to you is that you need to hunt them early in the morning and late in the afternoon. That's really important. As far as their senses go, it's true that they don't have good eyesight. They really don't. That's pretty well known among most hunters. But one thing we do know is they've got incredible hearing and they've got incredible noses. Now that requires you to do a couple things when you're hunting. Number one, make sure the wind direction is with you. Always hunt downwind. What that means is make sure the wind is blowing from the boar to you, not vice versa. That's pretty logical. The next thing is, since their hearing is so good, you want to make sure that when you're stalking, they can't hear you. If the woods are really noisy, try a tree stand. Get in a place between their feeding areas and their bedding areas. Boars use trails. Set up on one of those trails. Those are my best tips for wild boar hunting. I'm Jim Zumbo, hunting editor for Outdoor Life magazine.
Thanks, Jim, for that helpful tip on bow hunting the wild boar. Paul and I didn't give up after coming up empty during our morning hunt. Hog hunting is not easy. Like any hunting experience, there's a great deal of patience and waiting involved. In other words, you don't just go out into the woods and expect to bring a hog home every time. Paul and I decided to split up during our next attempt. We also decided to use tree stands. A tree stand can really help improve your odds while hunting wild hogs. The reason is clear. A tree stand can keep you from being seen or scented as easily while elevating you above the underbrush, providing a commanding view to help you see and shoot. Most of the experts will agree that using a tree stand is the single best thing you can do to raise your chances of bow hunting success. It certainly helps to have a portable stand like the ones Paul and I use. Once you're set up, then the waiting game begins. When I left Paul, I told him I'd body slam him if he came back to camp without a hog. Meanwhile, I stood poised in my stand and waited. I heard several grunts in the distance, but none came into range. Although I did see some white-tailed deer.
What you doing, bud?
What you got on the back there?
Oh, got lucky.
Huh?
Got lucky.
I mean to tell you.
I got us dinner.
Yes, sir. Let's get some hams on them, don't he?
Yeah, it'd be fine eating. Be a good eating little hog.
Well, you tell me the story. I want to hear about it.
Well, I'm telling you. Well, you know, this morning, I first went in, I saw some hogs. And basically, I guess they were out there feeding, and they ended up making a circle.
We on that same stand you on?
Same one. Yeah. Exactly same place. And that hog, they just, they were out there feeding, and this was, there was about 6 of them that I saw. This was, the smallest one, but it's the only one that come in within range,
Plus, that's the eating one, too, right?
That's it. That's the way I look at it, a good eating one, plus a good, everything was perfect, a good shot.
I sure did enjoy spending time with and getting to know Mr. Wonderful. Even though we didn't get the trophy hog we were after, we still had a great time out there in the woods. My first hog hunt certainly turned out to be an adventure. As I left, the only thing I could think about was when I'd get a chance to do this again. I'll tell you, it's an exciting experience. Folks, until next week, you remember, it's not necessarily the catch or the kill that makes for a great outdoor experience, but rather just an opportunity to be out in a place like this and enjoy all that the Creator's given us to enjoy. So you get out there. And I'm Steve Bartkowski. I'll see you next week right here on Suzuki's Great Outdoors on ESPN.